Good morning. It's Monday, October 5th. Please remember that tomorrow is the practice ACT. I believe you'll get more details about where you will go for the test in an email from Mrs. Lubke's. I think instead of being in the auditorium, you will be in 3 or 4 different classrooms. Remember that we'll start right at 8:30. Remember to have your computer fully charged and bring a calculator with you. I will be serving on a jury very likely through the end of next week, so I will expect you to give your full attention and respect to Mr. Kimmel. In my absence, I want you to get a start on a self selected historical fiction or nonfiction book. I believe I told you that when social studies and English standards changed a few years ago, Mr. Terrell and I quit teaching the earliest American history and literature through the end of the Civil War and a little beyond. You picked up in U.S. history this year with westward expansion and industrialization at the turn of the century. In American Lit, that means that we miss out on about 200 years of that early American literature. So, one way to remedy that, or to give you at least some exposure to history and literature from that time period, is to have you choose a work of historical fiction or nonfiction set in America anytime prior to 1920. I've had students read about the Salem witchcraft trials, about the American Revolution, about settling the plains. They've read westerns like Louis L'Amour. They've read about the American Revolution. I think I mentioned that. They've read nonfiction books about the sinking of the Titanic, about the tuberculosis epidemic in 1908, 1909, when about 12,000 Americans were infected with tuberculosis. Another favorite was a book called Orphan Train. It was a true story about the orphan train movement that was this supervised welfare program that transported orphaned and homeless children from those crowded big eastern cities in the United States to foster homes that were located mostly in rural areas of the Midwest. So the trains would take them directly to Omaha, where then they'd be sent to families, and that happened between the 1860s and early 1920s. So we're going to send you right away to the library this morning. Mrs. Kistler is expecting you. She's really excited to share some titles with you that she has pulled from her shelves. And I have also sent copies of about 4 or 5 books that we have multiple copies of here at West Central. I brought Mrs. Kistler some sample projects that students have completed on several of the books in the past. Please choose a book that sounds interesting to you. Mr. Kimmel will give you this packet that you see on the screen right now that outlines some project options, and those are sort of listed at the bottom. And then I think I've given you some sample pictures to look at. And again, some of those are in the library right now, so you'll see those displayed with Mrs. Kistler's with the books that she has put out. Um, Other than working on a mechanics usage grammar lesson for a short time each day, you will have most of class to read for the next week or more, probably more than a week. So pick a book that you can finish in 2 to 2.5 weeks. I'd really like the projects complete by about October 23rd, which gives you 3 full weeks. But plan on picking a book that you can finish in 2 weeks or so. So you'll do a project. You'll also journal at Quick Topic in a few days once you get into your book. I did email all of you last week about my absence in the next couple of weeks. So once again, if you have makeup work, please email me. I think I will plan to be here Wednesday and Thursday morning this week at 7:30 in case any of you need to make up quizzes on Kia. On Tuesday, I do have a staff meeting here until I have to leave. I have to leave the building here at 8:15 to be to the courthouse by 8:45. So this morning, after you pick out your book, come back to class and maybe just read for a little bit while you wait for everyone to get a book and come back. Then find your five major movements packet from last week, and Mr. Kimmel will show you a couple of short videos about those five major movements in American literature, starting with the Age of Reason and Romanticism, Realism, Modernism, Postmodernism. You will take an open note quiz this morning, and then as soon as you finish that, you'll have time to start reading. Don't leave your books at home. Bring them with you so that you've got them along to read every day in class. And happy reading. Thanks a lot.